Sure, I'm Youssef Sabet. I was class of 2015. As soon as I finished school, just took a few gap years and travelled for a bit around Europe, went to the US for a bit, and then ended up moving to the US to study acting. So yeah, I just got back last year in December.
Hi, I'm Abigail Xu. I graduated in 2020 and this year I've commenced a Bachelor of Commerce at the University of Melbourne. And apart from commencing my studies at uni, I've been doing tutoring at CGS as well as privately.
It was at the Atlantic Acting School, which is in Chelsea, New York. And I've always acted as a kid, did all the plays in primary school and secondary school. So it's something I've always wanted to do. And then I think it was year 9 is when I got an agent and started actually submitting auditions for TV shows and films and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's just something I've kind of chipped away at during high school and then fully committed to since, so yeah. First year was pretty, not rough, but it's a different city, different culture, you get used to it, didn't really know anyone. And then as I started finding my bearings and meeting people, it was just easy. I loved it. There's always something going on in New York. There's always someone screaming or there's some show on the street or whatever. So it's, what am I trying to say? It's very stimulating constantly. And then you come to Melbourne and it's just quiet. So, apart from the weekend. So yeah.
I think it was definitely a bit of a challenge, but also a great learning experience. So learning how to, obviously almost break free from your situations and make the best of what you've got. So ways that I coped, just I guess Zooming or FaceTiming with friends and, trying to keep a sense of community, even though we weren't able to be physically together. But also just keeping a really positive mindset. So obviously during lockdown, I had some moments where I felt quite low and almost depressed, but I think my relationship with God, as cheesy as it sounds, really helped me to break free from those kind of mental barriers. So yeah, I don't regret having that experience during lockdown because I think it's made me stronger as a person and more perseverant. Yeah, so quite interesting. Actually, all my semester 1 classes were online, so it wasn't that different from my experience last year. Working during lockdown, but just tried to keep the same mindset and to almost live without regrets. So just making the most of every opportunity, and even just trying to make connections through social media with other people and other BCom students who are in the same places.
Yeah, it's a strange one because it's kind of up to opinion still as to are they doing enough or not. Some people would say they're doing enough now, some people would disagree completely. But I think there's an effort being made that's pretty clear in my opinion. And it's, we can always progress and get better obviously. But yeah, there is a lot more, the term used to be all ethnicities, and that's kind of going away now. They're being very specific about what ethnicity, and they're opening it up for, Middle Easterners and Hispanic people, black people, because they used to say, all ethnicities just means, they'd say it always just means white people, which, again, it's a very touchy political topic that you could go on for days on. But, and same with gender, it is frowned upon for, let's say, a non-trans person to play a trans person, where back in the day that wasn't really a thing. And I think that's really good, just to give those people the opportunity to take on those roles. So yeah, I think there is a lot of improvement, but yeah, we can always get better, always, yeah. Sure. My parents moved from Egypt to here. I was actually born in New Zealand and we moved here when I was 1. So I'm kind of a first generation Australian. And I love it, I do. I got my citizenship in 2006. I remember that was the most exciting day of my life as a kid. I was nearly saw. I got my citizenship in 2006 and that was one of the best days of my life. I was so excited, took it to show and tell. So I think there's always been a battle of fitting in and understanding the Australian culture because I just didn't have it at home. The joke we have is we don't have white bread in our household. It's just not a thing. It's a very Aussie thing, and I always wanted white bread in the household. We always had this some weird spice in it. So that's like I guess that was the juggling act for me, is just kind of, juggling the two cultures that I love very much. So yeah.
Both my parents are from China, and they actually were fortunate enough to have the opportunity to come over to Australia. And I was also very privileged. I had the opportunity to grow up as an Australian citizen. But I think some of the struggles were, like Youssef, I think cultural differences and just being able to kind of fit in with the rest of my class and peers. So definitely had sometimes a struggle and almost like an identity crisis at times, not knowing how to act in certain situations. I think there was a particular situation at camp one time, and I did something that was very custom in my culture, but a lot of the kids did make fun of me for that, and it's kind of something that stuck with me for a while now. But I think as I grow up, I'm actually proud to be Chinese and have a different background to most of everyone here. I think because I've been able to maintain some of that kind of cultural traditions, and the biggest thing that I'm very appreciative for is actually my parents teaching me the Chinese language. And I know as a kid I would often fuss over like, oh, I don't want to learn Chinese, English is enough, but being able to hold on to that bit of who I am and that cultural identity is something that I'm very, very appreciative for.
I think the best way for us to all, understand each other is by telling stories, like hearing your story there, me telling my story, you telling your story. It's like we all that's how we can understand each other. We're actually very alike. I think we always forget that. And then someone will say something about, an experience they're having and you relate to it in some way. So opening it up, I love opening up discussion. And I will often do that in a social setting, in a really polite way, in a really nice way that's welcoming to everyone. I think if we don't, when I was in high school, there was a lot of tiptoeing around these like touchy topics. And it's actually really cool now that we're just having these open discussions. And I wish we had that when I was a bit younger, because it would make it a lot easier, I think, for anyone that felt a bit different or a bit of an outcast. You could just speak your mind, be heard, and others could probably relate. So yeah.
Yeah, I do think that there's gradually more and more conversation being instigated around this kind of topic, but I do think that there needs to be, like Youssef said, more storytelling and actually getting others to relate to how we feel as culturally different people. I do think that apart from conversations though, we need to probably do more activities. So I don't know if I can really add on to what you said, because I think you've worded it quite perfectly, but yeah, just apart from that kind of instigating conversation, but then also doing more kind of intimate conversations about that, rather than just holding, maybe an assembly and talking about, oh yeah, we should be accepting of each other no matter how different we are. So yeah.
Yes, I actually think we're probably making more noise than anyone in a really good way, and we are being heard for the first time. Like, I think there was an attitude of like, shut up, you young people, you don't know anything. And now with social media, we're almost leading the change, I think. Might be wrong. But yeah, in my circles, I feel like it's always young people leading the charge with these sorts of things.
Yeah, I think with that being said, yeah, obviously the younger generation, we're going to be the leaders of our future. And so I think generally more and more people are starting to open up these kind of conversations to younger people and including them and actually asking them for their opinion, because we'll be leading the future. And so that was actually through an audition process at the very start of the year. So I have quite a strong interest in music, and I've been heavily involved with that for many, many years now. It's almost a key part of my identity, and so I really didn't want to lose that going into uni and starting a degree completely irrelevant to that interest. I definitely wanted to keep that up. So yeah, just made a quick Google search and signed up immediately, went through the audition process, and now I'm part of the wind ensemble and orchestra. So.
Cool. How often do you guys get together and play?
Yeah, so we usually have rehearsals Monday afternoons or evenings and Wednesday evenings as well. For orchestra, it can be Tuesday, Thursday or Friday. So it's, some people might say it's very time consuming, but I really do enjoy that, like a kind of disconnection from my academic life almost. It's a very kind of transcendental experience, I think, where you're just not thinking about the other stresses and worries of your life, but really just thinking about how to cooperate and work together as a team and create just beautiful art. It is absolutely huge. Yeah, it's definitely a big community. So apart from symphonic band, we've got other levels as well. So I think just within that group we've got maybe 100 plus. And there's also different rosters, so some people come on for different pieces and then some will go off, so it's really hard to say, but it is a huge, huge community and I'm so glad to be part of it.
Yeah, it's not well, but then well. Like it's honestly a week by week thing. I'll get a heap of auditions and feel like I nailed them and I'll be up and about, and then you just won't hear anything for a month and you just go flat. So it's constantly constantly having that insecurity of not landing a job. For me, the big thing I do is I just read more plays and read more TV scripts and film scripts just to kind of keep myself active. And then I try and create a lot of my own work. So I do a lot of writing, or whether it's like a comedy or something dramatic. I love writing drama mainly. But yeah, just anything just to keep me busy. So I feel like I'm constantly doing something and working towards my craft rather than just going, silent for a month or two. So
Yeah. So I'm doing VCE tutoring at the moment, and I'm lucky enough to also be involved in the Foundation Scholarship Tutoring Program. And through that process, I've actually kind of undergone a lot of thinking, and it sparked kind of thinking for what I want to do in the future as well. So working with underprivileged students or minority groups has really kind of got me thinking about my pathway in commerce and the end goal, which is law. And so I've really been thinking about public policy as my main goal, and thinking about how economics and legislation, combining that can create more opportunities for individuals who are part of or individuals who are like those part of the Foundation Scholarship tutoring. So yeah, it's been a great experience and definitely sparked more thinking about what possible career pathway I should go on. Yeah, so I think one of the biggest conversations nowadays is centered around sustainability and ethical sourcing, especially within fast fashion industries. So that's what I've been thinking about so far in my degree, for commerce, in my bachelor degree. So I haven't really thought about the specifics, but those are kind of topics I want to tackle in the future and things I've been thinking about, how to make my own mark on this world.
This is actually, it's a pretty big thing for me. I'm very especially lately, the last year, I've been very aware of, very conscious of my thoughts. And I enjoy doing it because it just made me a happier person in general. So that's just like questioning every thought that I have that might cause me some sort of distress or anxiety or whatever. I'll question the thought always and kind of bring myself back to reality as to, what's happening now in the moment. Cause I think, me personally, I overthink about the past and the future, but I rarely overthink about what's happening right now. So it's like just being the now. That's a big thing for me. I do a lot of breath work and meditation as well. Every morning I start off with a little breath routine, literally just to get myself going, and I found it's just kept me very, very mentally healthy and driven as well. I like I'll get a knockback and I'll just always easily at the moment I've been able to just get back up. Where I think in the past I used to just dwell on every knockback I got, and you know, I'm over feeling like that. So yeah.
So far my kind of planned path is to finish off my degree and then hopefully do a Juris Doctor in law at the University of Melbourne. So that's probably where I want to be in around 5 years, and then also commencing practical legal training. By then I hope I've probably sorted out exactly what field of law I want to go into, and just kind of got a more solidified plan for my career by then.
I think 5 to 10 years I just want to be making a living solely off acting, or something creative, with acting, directing, writing. Yeah, no normal jobs. That's the goal. Yeah. Yeah, I think we can all just learn. It's happening a lot lately as well. Like social media, I feel like going mental with all sorts of things. Like young people coming forward, calling things out. And I would just say, I think we've got to listen without judgment and see what we can learn, and not judge ourselves too hard about maybe past mistakes we've made. And move forward. There's no point of, again, dwelling on what's happened in the past, but learn from it and draw a line on it, and yeah.
Yeah, I think with the prevalence of technology in our modern society, especially younger kids, they're becoming more and more intelligent and learning about things that we might have not thought about until an older age. So yeah, definitely keeping our mind very open to how they respond to certain situations, what their plans are for the future, and yeah, keep an open mind and listen to what they've got to say.
Yeah, honestly, I'd say just enjoy as much as you can. The first 2 years, there's no, at least I didn't think there was no pressure to, go get a degree or go, like I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my acting, and that's why I just took a few years off and just chilled for a bit. Get a job. I think that's where I learnt most of the skills that I think I have now, is just through working in cafes and talking to other people, and getting like life experience rather than going from school straight into school. That's just, that kind of what worked for me. So.
Yeah, so for me, I think this is something I still struggle with, kind of living in the present moment rather than, focusing on the past and then thinking about the future. So, these days I'm kind of plagued by these thoughts of, when am I going to start an internship? How are my grades, my relationships with my family and my friends, and all these kind of overwhelming thoughts. I think just to make the most of them out of the moment is really going to be what's most rewarding for yourself.